Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Spiritual Fitness with your host, Vaisheshika Prabhu, a veteran Bhakti yogi, former monk, and author, and myself, JM. Spiritual Fitness is dedicated to exploring the timeless texts and practices of Bhakti Yoga that lead to spiritual perfection. We have more than 12 members on Zoom, others joining soon, and close to more than 50 members on Facebook. Good afternoon, Vaisheshika Prabhu. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
I think maybe you're on mute. I'll just unmute you.
Thanks, Jay. It's great to see you, and welcome back to everybody who joined us in the Zoom room. I'm so happy you're here today. One of the reasons I'm happy is I was able to fulfill my promise. For last week, after we ended, I said I would make my friend Elin Chester, otherwise known as Havi Das, come back. He's a two-time Grammy winner and a good friend of mine who brings a lot of joy to my life and to thousands, tens of thousands of others through his music and his personality. He's dedicated himself not just to being a consummate and professional musician, but also to the science of Bhakti Yoga over many, many years. And the combination is extremely nice. He was on here a month and a half ago, and I didn't want to bother him too much, but he said it was no bother, so he came back. Well, there he is now. Hey, welcome, Havi. Still muted. Click.
Yeah, I think unmuted.
He may need a little help there from the central command.
Yeah, I did. Yes.
I'm here.
Okay, good. I'm so happy you're there. Thank you very much. And a few words before we have Havi Prabhu lead us in a musical meditation. Oftentimes we start here with a meditation, and today we're going to make it really easy. I'll say a few words first about today's program because it's pointed in a certain direction, and the first idea here is designing the soundtrack of your life. So what's a movie without a soundtrack? We already discussed about how silent films aren't really silent. Silent film era was combined with orchestration, piano music. So then without that, the emotive quality of the visual track was not so much. Point is, and this comes from the Bhakti scriptures, and that is that every one of us has a soundtrack in our life that determines how we think, how we move, and what our future is. The sound is very, very powerful. And we're going to go into that a little bit later, but we'll do something experiential to start in the way of meditation. And to preface it, I'll say one other thing about the philosophy of sound, and that is that sound carries intentionality, or as some others put it, sound carries consciousness. It carries the consciousness of the person who's emitting the sound. And intentionality is a very subtle principle, subtle element, actually. It's not even physical, it's metaphysical. How can you measure it? Well, you feel it. And when the person who's singing or talking has a particular state of heart, amazingly, according to the Bhakti Yoga teachings, that intentionality, that feeling of heart gets transferred to our hearts as well. So one of the ways in which one can purify the consciousness and open the consciousness to the wonders of the world is through a musical mantra and hearing from those who are practicing at a high level, the Bhakti Yoga. So I think that Havi Prabhu has selected a song from antiquity. It's not even in English, but it was written by a great saint many years ago. There were a lot of musical, saintly people, men and women, who would write poetry and songs. And over the generations, singing those songs would open a window, so to speak, to the fourth dimension, to the spiritual world. And Javi, is that what you have planned for us today?
Well, yes,
I'll let you speak for yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me, Vaisheshika Prabhuji. This song is by Narottam Das Thakur, one of our heroes. He glorified our also heroes, Nitai and Gauranga, Chaitanya and Nityananda. It's a beautiful song of love, and to hear this, even though we don't understand the words, still it has a potency, and that's a good beginning as far as our theme today. Sometimes we think that we have to understand those transcendental words. We don't have to intellectually. So this is Paramakaruna, okay? Paramakaruna Pahundwijana Anitai Gora Chanda Paramakaruna Pahundwijana Anitai Gora Chanda Sabayavantan Sarasiramani Kemalayananda Kanda Sabayavantan Sarasiramani Kemalayananda Kanda Majubajobai Chaitanya Nitai Sudrida Vishwasa Kori Bajamajabai Chaitanya Nitai Sudrida Vishwasa Kori Visaya Chadiya Serase Majiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Visaya Chadiya Serase Majiya Mukhe Bolo Kaure bai tribuvane nai emonato yolodata de kaure bai tribuvane nai emonato yolodata Pasupakijure pasana midale sunijana gunagata Pasupakijure pasana midale sunijana gunagata Samsare majiya rohili boriya sepade noiloyasa Sansare majiya rohili boriya sepade noiloyasa Apana korama punjaye samana hoye lochandasa Apana korama punjaye samana kohoe luchandasa Paramakaruna Pandijana Nitai Gora Chana Paramakaruna Pandijana Nitai Gaura Chanda.
Bravo. Thank you. Thank you. There's one line in that song that talks about how when the spiritual vibration comes in, that even stones can melt, as it's so powerful. And the author is often, he's saying about how the heart can become stone-like, and how the spiritual vibration can melt the heart nonetheless. And this is the seat of spiritual realization, this heart region that's so affected by the sound. You interact with thousands and thousands of audience members around the world when you tour, and you see the evocative nature of sound. Have you noticed the different genres of sound, or music, I should say, and its effects? Any observations that you have from your perspective of being up on stage and singing and so forth?
Yeah, it's amazing how conditioning has to do with how we relate to sound. I remember that in the 60s, when my parents were listening to, say, for example, Dean Martin, right? They all would go, everybody loves somebody sometime. I was listening. I was listening to Led Zeppelin. So of course they were listening to my music and they say, this is noise. And it's curious because now we are listening to music, modern music, and we say, that was noise, right? So what is it? Is it noise? Is it fashion? Is it age? Well, it's a vibe that has to do with a particular moment, a particular historical time, state of consciousness. All those factors originate or generate a particular kind of music. And it becomes more popular and more successful if it resonates with more, Michael Jackson was much more successful than so many others who were even more talented than him. But he touched a particular nerve, if you will.
Yeah, what I hear from that is this idea of soundscapes, and that realms are created by the sound that occupies them. And today we're examining a little bit how sound affects us. We're noticing more how it brings out certain kinds of memories from our hearts. It moves us in various ways. And that there are ways of then editing the sound that we have in our life. We call the soundtrack of our life.
Yeah.
Before we go into experimental mode, now that we have you in this sound laboratory, I'll give you a little bit of a few anecdotes from the scientific world about sound. One of them is about how environmental sound affects us. Here's a little piece about a study on animals and the environment. Quote, decades of research demonstrate that roads impact wildlife and suggest traffic noise as a primary cause of population declines near roads. We created a phantom road using an array of speakers to apply traffic noise to a roadless landscape, directly testing the effect of noise alone on an entire songbird community during autumn migration. 31% of the bird community avoided the phantom road. For individuals that stayed despite the noise, overall body condition decreased by a full SD, and some species showed a change in ability to gain body condition when exposed to traffic noise during migratory stopover. We conducted complementary laboratory experiments that implicate foraging vigilance behavior as one mechanism driving this pattern. Our results suggest that noise degrades habitat. That's a good mantra to remember. Noise degrades habitat, because we all live in a habitat that is otherwise suitable, and that the presence of a species does not indicate the absence of an impact. So habitat is an interesting phrase, because every species has its psychophysiological makeup, and it requires a certain type of habitat. And much of that has to do with the sound vibration that's in the habitat itself. Or rather, I should say that the sound, the noises that are there, make up the habitat. That is the foundational part of it. There's also sound from our own mind. I brought up in previous meetings that there's a sound laboratory in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or rather I should say a soundless laboratory, where you could go in and there's negative decibels. And the reporters who have gone there report that it drives you crazy within a few minutes, not having any sound. But here's the opposite. It's called involuntary musical imagery, or IMI. Tell me if this sounds familiar to any of you. An earworm, sometimes known as a brainworm, sticky music, stuck song syndrome, or involuntary musical imagery is a catchy piece of music that continually repeats through one's mind after it is no longer playing. Can you play us what are any popular earworms that are out there that you can think of? From an advertisement. Yay! Well, I don't know how old you have to be to name what that is, but does anybody recognize that? Anybody can say where that's from?
Wasn't it a cartoon thing?
Yeah, it's a cartoon thing. And it just that you could identify it. Karina said Looney Tunes. Yeah,
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, Looney Tunes. You are correct. Tell them what they've won there, Javi. You won a brand new. Okay, so then there's words. Words are seeds. We've talked about that before. Words are very powerful. We have a human tongue. You can articulate. You can use syntax. And the way that we speak is extremely impactful, not only on ourselves, but on others as well. Here's a couple of thoughts. Nobel Prize-winning physicist Werner Heisenberg once stated, "Atoms or elementary particles themselves are not substantial. They form a world of potentialities or possibilities rather than one of things or facts. This energy vibrates at an infinite number of subtle frequencies that cause it to appear as all the different creations we see in our world." There has been a great deal of research in recent years as to whether the universe we live in is actually a holographic experience, and it seems that this is very close to the truth. So subtle frequencies are the key here, and the fact is that these subtle frequencies shape our world. In fact, the Heisenberg principle has a lot to do with the ways in which we affect our own environment. There's a principle that he coined that has to do with the ways that when scientists look at an experiment, they don't see it in its pristine state because just you looking at it changes the subject. For instance, in sociology, if a person's coming over to study you and your family, you're going to immediately rearrange your house to make it the way you think that it should look. what to speak of all other environments get affected by our presence. And the other point is that it's the subtle vibration, and sound is that subtle vibration. So there's a principle in bhakti yoga called prajalpa. Prajalpa means making words, or speaking words rather, that are not useful. They're not helping anybody. For instance, can anybody think of a category of speech that is not helpful?
News.
News. Okay, yeah, just sensationalizing. And as I brought up intentionality, if somebody's trying to make money from the words that they're speaking, it's sponsored, in other words, and they want you to get agitated by it so you'll buy more and so forth. That could be one. What's another kind of speech, would you all say?
Advertising.
Yep. Advertising. And what about just go ahead, yes.
Speaking something which is provocative.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean, for example, something I'm not thinking about, and I mean, somebody asked me what I think about it, but thought provoked, which took me in the wrong direction.
Okay. Words that take people in the wrong direction, they provoke you, or they're meant to provoke. And what about good old gossip? Just criticizing people, making assumptions and so forth. So there's lots of different kinds of speech, ways that we use our tongue that can be harmful. And let's see, one more point about music, because that's one of the main topics today. Rogers and Hammerstein, whenever I feel afraid, I hold my head erect and whistle a happy tune, so no one will suspect I'm afraid. And every single time, the happiness in the tune convinces me that I'm not afraid. So there's this sense that whatever state of consciousness I'm in, it can be switched through the tune, the consciousness, and the consciousness that comes from the tune and the song that I sing. I wanted to try a little experiment here, and that is any of you who have joined the meeting today, why don't you name a genre of music, and we'll experiment by hearing different types of music, different genres of music, and then we can participate in saying how it affected us. How did a particular genre make us feel? Does that sound like a fair, or at least a fun experiment?
Yes.
Okay, who would like to be the first one
We start with blues.
Okay, Brian would like to hear some blues.
It's interesting. I was just thinking about the blues. It's amazing how blues is a result of depression. It's an expression of the slaves, originally coming from praising God in the gospel realm, and how we in the 60s we identify ourselves so much with blues, precisely because we were depressed, and it resonated with us.
It resonates right now too.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, for contrast, somebody give us another genre, any genre that gives us some sense of contrast, and then we'll comment on the contrast.
I've got a challenge for you. Electronic music.
What?
This is electronic music. Can you do that on the keyboard? Might be a
I
tough one.
can, yeah. Hold on a second. Anyways, it's electronics.
Excellent. So, did anybody notice a difference between the? Let's just discuss. What are the? How did we feel? Was there any difference in emotion or anything like that?
I would say the blues definitely evoked more stronger emotions and a wider range of emotions. I just didn't resonate as much with the electronic music, even though I'm the one who recommended it.
Nice. Let's hear
Yeah.
some more. Just tell us how you felt. Yeah.
Blues was more subtle and stable kind of stuff.
Feeling.
But yeah, feeling is the right word. Yeah. But this electronic one was more like jumping and like as if we are doing shallow breathing.
Interesting. Different adjectives for each type of music, and it's bringing out a different kind of feeling. Yeah.
I felt the blues was more calming and more bringing me in. The electronic was just a little bit more frenetic.
Oh, calming versus frenetic. Nice. Good descriptive words. Okay, let's try. Give him another one. Don't be afraid. Just whatever you. He'll give it a shot. I feel like getting a candy store. I could think of like, Show Tunes Broadway from Julie. Show Tunes Broadway musicals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's an old one. That's 60s. That's Hello, Dolly. But of course, if you have musical today, you can have you remember that one?
Yeah.
Chim
Chimney,
chimney
chim, chimney, chim, chim, chiroo.
So that is of course it's a musical, but it's a movie.
Gee, boy, it takes me back. I mean, I'm transported. I mean, when you're playing a song from a period, I go back there. It just shows how it's imprinted. It's already there within the mind stuff. We have it inside us, and it brings it out. Let's try two more.
Victor says Mary Poppins.
Yeah, that is Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, yeah.
Let me see 1 second. This is a little bit. That's difficult. 1 second. No, I got it wrong. Did you say Mary Poppins?
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yes.
That's Mary Poppins, am I right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Josh says disco.
Disco.
Oh my God. Let me see what I have here. 1 second. Disco is always related to drums, right? You need to have a... I won't be able to do that, I think. Let me see here. No, it's difficult because you need drums. You need drums in order to generate disco music.
Do a little classical,
Okay.
please.
All right. Let me see here. And so on. This is Star Wars, of course.
Yeah, and that took us right in there. So we can see the difference in the genres and how it affects us in various ways. As I introduced last week, the idea of musical meditation called Kirtan or Samkeerthana. So there's a way in which the sound vibration, the tune itself, even the rhythm, opens a part of our heart and it allows the mantra to go in deeper. And there's a way in which the vibrations from the mantra are from a different realm. They're not a material vibration, they're coming from a channel that's passing down sound from a higher dimension, a dimension that's non-material, non-neural, non-temporal, non-chemical. And this is the primary means through which, in the process of bhakti yoga, one can clear the consciousness, or poetically, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who taught this system of bhakti 500 years ago, he said, our heart is like a lotus flower, and when the mantra goes in through music, it opens that flower of good fortune in our heart. And now we can ask Kavi if he'll do some mantra music, and we'll hear how the music opens the heart and then lets the mantra in.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So now let's take a few minutes for some reflections. Any questions? Anna says, beautiful, this took me to a completely different dimension. And any observations about the theory, about sound, or any of the conversation we've had so far, or any experience you have with the music, if you could share, that would be really nice. Just come into the Zoom room and share. That's the best. Score the most points that way. Otherwise, you can put any comments in the chat box. What did you feel? What did you hear? What are some of the things you remember from the monologue or the discussion we're having?
I kind of thought about my own experiences with music, and music can be so mood dependent. Like some days I'll be listening to like punk rock because I'm in a chaotic mood and I want to stay in that chaotic mood. Or I'll want to remove myself from the chaotic mood and I'll put on like maybe Joshua Bell, the violinist, to calm me down and bring me out of it. So I just think of music as such a sound altering thing. I don't know how to word it properly.
Well, you're doing quite well. And there's a lot of studies that show that hormones are affected by the music that we listen to. Definitely moods, no question about it. Even our anecdotal experience just now shows that you hear a different genre, it'll evoke a different kind of mood in us. And coming back to our theory, we can adjust our moods also by adjusting the kind of music that we're listening to and the sound vibration. And we can even, according to the ancient wisdom literatures, that say anavriti shabdat. So shabdat means sound, and anavriti means to become uncovered. And the idea is that our consciousness gets covered by various layers of darkness. And to remove that darkness, for the consciousness to bloom and to come to its full potential, the shabda, or vibration that comes from a different realm, when it's introduced into our environment and we listen to it, it naturally begins to transform us in extraordinarily wonderful ways. What else did you hear, experience? What other thoughts would you like to all add?
Harish and Ritvik just posted on Zoom.
Oh, he did, yeah.
Harish mentions with different genres or rasas of music, emotions changes, or we like different rasas at different state of mind. I felt if it relates to emotions, then it in most cases energizes me. That's Harish. And Ritvik says, very peaceful. I would like to hear it or sing it when feeling stressed out, will definitely help to calm me down and be more responsive to solutions rather than being reactive.
Well, Javi, what is your experience? You've been doing chanting mantra for many, many years, and how has it affected you?
Well, I can say I'm alive because of mantras. There's no doubt that besides, you can go in major chords or minor chords or any melody or rhythm, but that is superfluous comparing to what the mantra itself does to our consciousness, where we can actually see that we are coming above the water level, and we can breathe above the movements of the water. I hope I am explaining myself well. And it has an effect that we can hardly perceive it until we become really more better practitioners, and we can actually at that point we feel joy, we feel empathy, we start to develop sentiments like compassion, and those are the symptoms that we are in the right track, that we are actually that is my experience, my personal experience, that we are in the right track.
Yeah, I like what you said about the water level. In one song I learned many years ago, that's written in Bengali, there's a phrase in which the author says, habudubu. In Bengali, which is a very onomatopoeic language, and this is definitely an onomatopoeic phrase, the word habudubu, everyone try it. Say habudubu 3 times. Habudubu, habudubu,
Yes,
habudubu.
it's like drinking water.
It's bubbles. It's actually bubbles coming up from the water. So the word habudubu means I'm drowning.
Sure.
And it's that, like you're in the water and you're trying to get above it, but you can't. And the way he explains it is that life can be like that. It can be so overwhelming. One thing comes after another, and I feel, how am I going to get above the water line? So the way you described how the mantra lifts us above that drowning state. My teacher once said that you don't have to be a mile above the water to breathe. You only have to be 1 inch above it.
Oh, nice.
As long as you're not in it. And so the theory behind mantra is that the sound vibration itself, if you create a soundscape in your life where you're introducing the mantra, then you can stay above that drowning level. And really, I'm drowning in my own mind. The mind takes in these impressions and they leave impressions called samskars, or that is, the information I'm taking in through my senses leaves these impressions, and they become very loud. They're part of my soundscape. And the mantra is said to be a cleansing agent. Cheto darpana marjanam. So cheta means the consciousness, and darpana means to clean. Cheto darpanam, darpa means mirror, and marjana means to clean. So there's a way in which the mind, which is meant to be a clear surface, which is meant to reveal our higher self, it becomes dusty, it becomes muddy, or even worse, it can be in a crate or encased in stone. I mentioned this at the end last meeting. And so if it's just dusty, you need a little cloth. If it's muddy, you need a sponge and a bucket. And if it's a crate, you need an axe. And if you're encased in stone, you need some dynamite. So the idea is the mantra is like that dynamite. It's bringing in a more powerful kind of sound vibration that opens us up to our full potential, which has nothing to do with the limitations of this earthly dimension that we're in right now. Oh, there's a few more comments that have just come in.
Yes. Zach says, we give our 4-year-old control of the radio at times. Often she will replay a song 5, 6, 7, sometimes more. I was about to interrupt and tell her to move on, and my wife stopped me. She said, "Let her replay this as many times as she wants to, because there is something about that song that she's exploring. Likely how the song makes her feel supports everything we have talked about today."
Very interesting. Yes. And that vibration we've experienced before, even those in a coma can respond to music. It's a very subtle element, and therefore it can touch us very deeply, even when we may not be in external consciousness. What to speak of a child or anyone else who listens to music and processes it. What else do we have there?
We have Karina, who mentions, like a book can transport my mind to another place and time, I feel music can do the same. It can be transformative.
Nice.
Victor mentions music serves different purposes. There is the mind-opening music and also the background sound type of music.
Yeah. And finally, Zach. Oh, yeah, you already read Zach's. Okay, great.
And we have one more from Facebook. Like babies enjoy it, animals enjoy it. The essence of music is enjoyed by even snakes and other creatures as well. This from Pranagopika Mata.
Nice. Yeah, we'd like to bring a snake on next time and see how he or she responds to Javi's music. Let's see if there are any more comments from the Zoom room. Anything else you all want to say about the experiment, what we're experimenting with, or would you like to ask for any other genre before we try some more mantra music?
I will say, if you bring a snake on, Brian's my father, he'll leave.
Okay. I don't know how we'll do it. We'll think about it, but we don't want him to leave. So, Javi Prabhu, let's see if would you lead us in some more mantra?
Yes.
And maybe this time, for a portion of it, we can put up the mantra on the screen. One of the ways of mantra meditation is to actually look at the mantra as you're singing it.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you. So these practices of what's called Kirtan or Samkeerthana have been going on for hundreds, thousands of years, actually. People would join together, like in a village, a few simple instruments, and then they would spend time together just chanting these sacred mantras. And then the experience, as mentioned in the literatures that describe the power of transcendental sound, as being as effective as eating food when you're hungry. One of the verses mentions that just as when you eat a good meal, when you're very, very hungry, then you get nourishment, satisfaction, and eradication of hunger. Those three benefits come. So from the mantra, it says similarly, you feel a sense of swelling gratitude. You realize the context of the universe from the point of view of being maintained, that it's a benevolent environment. And also, you begin to see the oneness of all life. No discrimination between the external, the superficial differences between one human and another, between one animal and another. This is called, in the Bhagavad Gita, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapakecha Pandita Samadarshina, a highly learned person who's spiritually fit, actually sees beyond the external covering of the body. The body's made of lower elements. If you take out all the water that's in our present bodies, you get $2.42 worth of chemicals left over. However, that's not us. We're not those chemicals. We weren't the water in the first place. All that can evaporate, all that can scatter in the wind, but we never scatter in the wind. We're the conscious entity that's behind the body, that animates it. We're the seer behind the eyeball. The eyeball's only a lens that focuses on various objects. However, in the subtle mind, the realm of the mind, which is, as we've described earlier, as software, and the buddhi, or the intellect, there is more subtlety. And I can identify myself more as the mind. Sometimes people think I am my mind. And in the mind, there are myriad impressions, millions, billions, to the 10th, 50th, 1000th power, because according to the ancient Vedas, life after life, I record my experiences on that subtle body. It's like a cloud with unlimited space. And those come to bear when I come into a new gross physical body, and I carry with me those subtle impressions. Those become the determining factor, the way I see the world. As Epictetus said, I don't see the world the way it is, I see the world the way I am. And the way I am right now, I become conditioned by those impressions, and therefore I develop a particular predilection towards or inclination towards certain kinds of things. I give up some things, I accept other things. These are called conditionings by the modalities of nature. So the process of mantra meditation then, it allows us to see for ourselves beyond those gross coverings and see the subtlety of every living entity. And a pundit or a learned person sees that an ant is a conscious living being, and therefore is respectful towards the ant, as respectful towards the ant as he or she is towards a bird or a dog or a human or a cow. Of course, there are external considerations. I wouldn't pet a tiger based on that, because there's a practical world to deal with, but the vision is that of seeing the equality. And finally, there's a sense that comes of letting go of things that are of lesser importance. It's called vairagya. As Stephen Covey once said, the main thing is keep the main thing the main thing. And the mind tends to pick up on all kinds of trivia and try to process it, which causes so much anxiety. But the mantra helps sort all that out so that I can actually see what is the main thing, what is the most important thing, and what we are is the most important thing, not what we have, and not our life situation. We're only passing through in this dimension for just a few years. And last night, my wife pulled out, she was going through a lot of stuff, winnowing out things we don't need, and she found a whole box full of items that my mother saved. And one of them was a baby book. When I was just a baby, she was writing down all the different stages of my development and stuff. And hearing that, I was thinking that was about 5 minutes ago. And, this lifespan is very quick. So it's an opportunity while we're here to open the consciousness. Let's see if Javi Prabhu will sing us out with a tune that'll get us dancing out the door. No, you better not do that. We're supposed to stay in. Don't get us too enlivened here, Javi. We might do something we regret.
If you allow me, I will do something I have never done before. This is a melody that I did some years ago, and I always sing it just by myself, but I would like to share it with you if you allow me. This is more like the influence, I think, of the Middle East. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I can sing the melody. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It just takes me to.
Oh, that was my favorite one from today. Really transportative. So let's just see if there's any last comments for Javi before we go, because we have to in a minute.
I just want to say that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. You can, anybody can just unmute at any time, say whatever you want.
Harish says, thanks for the great music.
Karina said, agreed.
We also have Eddie mentioning on the Facebook, Hari Prabhu's wonderful, powerful voice. And Danny saying, please come back soon.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much for being ready at a moment's notice to come and join us. It's certainly made a big difference in my life today, and I'm hoping that it touched all of you who joined us. And there's a way in which the soundtrack of our life is determining our consciousness now and is also taking us in a particular direction. So if you edit the soundtrack of your life, first by becoming aware of it, and then investigating investigating how to introduce spiritual sound, you'll notice a systemic effect, like taking a medicine that you take intravenously and then it affects the whole body very quickly. And this is the recommended process given in the ancient scriptures that have been passed down through generations in the yoga community. And it's as valid today as it ever was because we're so dependent on sound. So great to see you. Thank you very much. Anyone want to just unmute and say hey?
I want to say hey. I
Yes.
want to say thank you. Thank you, Vaisheshika Prabhu. You are abnormally amazing person, and I can say openly that I cannot live without you. So thank you for your association.
Thank you very much, Javi. Thank you. We normally travel together to various countries and do programs and stuff, but since we're locked down here, anyway, it seems to be working okay, right, Javi?
Oh, indeed. I'm very lucky.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does anybody want him to come back at another time? You have to unmute to say. I'll count how many unless we get at least 10 unmuted that says, please come
Yes.
back. Then
All the
Please
time.
come back.
2,
Yeah,
All
yes,
the-
please.
Please come back.
3,
Please come back.
4,
Please come back. Yeah.
5,
Please come back.
6,
Please come back.
7,
Yes.
Please come back.
8. Oh, we're only at 8. He won't come back
Please
unless
come
we
back.
get 2 more.
Please come back.
9, 10.
Please
Okay.
come
Thank you
back.
very much, everybody.
Thank
We'll look
you.
forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Always keep the
Thank you.
transcendental vibration going.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.